Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Opening up the discussion about Billy Napier on the hot seat down in Gainesville. And Dill, this is a conversation that we had heading into the year. And kind of the narrative was, and you won't find a stronger Billy Napier supporter than yours truly. That being said, it is time to discuss what you're seeing on the field and how to evaluate Billy Napier in his first year and a half as the head coach of the Florida Gators. Really excited to get into this one. Before we do, again, just want to say thank you to you guys and a special shout out to the Florida Gator fans. This is a program we've loved talking about. We covered all summer long on the recruiting trail. The amount of support y'all show, it really does mean a lot. So if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. More importantly, would love to hear what you guys think about this. And we've talked at length about this multiple times. So we have our takes. Would love to hear your takes in the comment section. Appreciate y'all rocking with the fellas, Dill. Going to kick this one off with just a simple question. Billy Napier, is he on the hot seat for you?
I think the hot seat conversation is absolutely bananas. Like,
Agreed.
You see what he's doing. He's going to bring in this 2024 class that looks like it's going to be right up there with anyone in the country. He brought in a very, very good class in 23 too, and really just his first year. And I get it. You've seen some disappointing moments on the field for sure. But college football, it starts and stops with recruiting at the end of the day. And I get there are coaches who can do it a little bit differently, but it's really hard to win at the level Florida wants to win unless you can recruit. And we'll have to see him bring the rest of the game along, but he's starting there. His message is clearly resonating with recruits. And you got to give him a shot with that 2024 class to go win game.
And I totally agree. And heading into the year, the narrative wasn't a lot of Florida Gator fans were saying like, a 6-6, 7-5 year would be pretty solid. Like you knew this roster was not SEC championship caliber, but you know down the road it certainly looks like it could be. But you had to be patient, and it gets harder to be. It's one thing to be patient in August when it's like, hey, a 7-5 season, keep this class together. It's another thing to be patient when you get 39 hung on you at home against an Arkansas team that hadn't won an SEC game up until this point. Emotional, I get it. We're Michigan fans at points in our fandom. Still, I remember story. This is a little sidetrack here. 2019, I believe, we were driving back from the Michigan-Ohio State game, another loss for Michigan, silence in the car, and Dill goes, I want them all gone.
It was hot.
And we get it. Like, we're fans too. That being said, when you look at the situation, I think it'd be extremely short-sighted and emotional to get rid of Billy Napier after 2 years after you're seeing what he's building.
You have to give him a shot. I think like you've seen schools make that mistake. I feel like Tennessee's made it before. Texas, I feel like you could argue, has made it. Like you got to give, if you're going to go hire the guy and he can, again, is bringing in the talent he's bringing in, you got to give him his shot to win with that group. Because at the end of the day, Mullen didn't leave this like a full cupboard for Billy Napier when he was coming in. You saw a lot of guys leave in the portal. You didn't see a ton of recruiting during the Mullen days. And Billy Napier, frankly, didn't go shell out in the portal and try to just turn the whole thing over like some of the other coaches have. And to me, that's the way you got to do it. It starts with high school recruiting, and you use the portal to supplement the roster. So I think, yeah, Billy Napier is doing it the slower way. It's not instant gratification, but it's the way you need to do it if you're going to go win at the level of like a Georgia or an Alabama or Ohio State.
100% agree with that. And I get it's like painful. Like it's painful for this process to take multiple years, but I really do think it's going to pay off if the Florida Gator administration and the fans are patient. And you mentioned it best. I don't think people appreciate. I think Florida fans appreciate. I don't think national media fans, because the national media is jumping on the Billy Napier bandwagon as if they don't realize the situation that Billy Napier had to take over for Dan Mullen. Like that roster and the culture of that program was not in a good spot. And you knew Billy Napier, he's going to change the culture. That doesn't happen overnight. And I think very similar situation, you can look at what happened in Tallahassee with Mike Norvell. In the first couple of years, the growing pains sucked. You had a lot of Florida State fans who are big Mike Norvell supporters right now, who are not Mike Norvell supporters 24 months ago. And look what happened. Like it paid off, but you have to be patient. You have to let him get his guys into the program, develop that culture that he wants. And if you let that happen, like I think it's going to work out. And Dill, you noted it. Like the young talent's already showing out for the Florida Gators in the 2023 year.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Like you see Eugene Wilson, he he's arguably the best player on that football team.
He was the best player on the field Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I'd 100% agree with that. I think you're seeing moments from Kelby Collins that look very promising, whether he's going to play inside or outside. You see the power, the athleticism at that size. He's going to be a unique player. I mean, that's what I'm seeing. You could throw Jordan Castell in there too. I think for a couple
Throw
mistakes,
a bunch of those guys in there. They're going to have a ton of guys that are getting the red shirt pulled. Like, you don't see that, and I guess that gets into kind of the explanation. Right. I mean, this is a young football team with a lot of first and second year dudes playing significant snaps, which is hard to do in the SEC. It's a young head football coach. This is his first big Power 5 job. He was handed the keys to a massive, massive program, and he went out and hired a young defensive coordinator that is, again, going through some growing pains. But I think Austin Armstrong is going to be a great defensive coordinator if given the time. There's a lot of things to explain the growing pains. But Dill, I don't want to just be all sunshine and rainbows, because like, you do have to recognize some of the flaws that are within this program. And I think the first thing that we can all start with is Billy Napier's got to go out, get an offensive coordinator that's proven, that's really good, and let Billy Napier take a step back and manage this team instead of having his nose down in the playbook when the team needs him to be a head coach, not an offensive play call.
And that's what you've seen. I frankly think you can look at the Utah game. I think you can look at the Kentucky game. And I think you can look at that second half of that Arkansas game.
Yes.
All three games that they let – I mean, it started with special teams in two of those scenarios.
We'll get there too, 100%.
And frankly, Arkansas, like, those mistakes can't happen, but they also can't spiral into chaos. Like, you look – we were watching that. I think we bet Florida, so we were obviously very keyed in on what was going on. But like you saw, I was like, man, this Florida team shouldn't be this uncompetitive for this long to start this game, because once they got their legs under them, you could kind of see they are arguably the better team. They really started to get themselves back in that game, but it was just too much damage done early, and that ultimately has to fall on Billy Napier's shoulders. You can't let your team spiral out of control, and yet that probably does start with being able to hire a more complete staff so that you can actually manage the football game, not just try to figure out the offense.
And I think it'll help with the consistency, right? Like we've been preaching this for so long. Like, if you get the version of the Florida Gators that were at home against Tennessee, like, that's what you want. And we're talking about this team in a completely different narrative. But the most frustrating part about this is you don't know what kind of Florida Gator team you're going to get week from week. And I think that starts with the head coach having so much responsibility for an offensive play calling and not sitting back and being a head coach.
And when you got young guys, you need to be there. Like, you're right. You need to be there for your young guys to be like, settle them down. And again, because it's not been like inconsistent play as much as it's been like, well, we let a mistake happen and then it spirals into chaos. And then the whole game's kind of over right there. So that, to me, it's like, just hire a special teams coordinator. Very bizarre. Like, I get maybe you want to trailblaze a little bit, but like, there's a reason Nick Saban and Kirby Smart and Jim Harbaugh and Urban, like, they all had special teams coordinators. It works. Hire an offensive coordinator. I don't think you see that many great head coaches call plays. I think Ryan Day is trying to do that at Ohio State.
And certain head coaches can, but it's not like Billy Napier's adding, like, it's not like I don't think any Florida Gator fans, and we're certainly not sitting there and being like, yeah, this offense is schemed up wonderfully. Billy Napier adding a ton of value to the offensive play calling, because that ain't happening. I think everyone knows that. You look at the greats, Kirby Smart, Nick Saban. They ain't calling plays. That doesn't mean you can't have a heavy hand in like the offensive game plan. You can certainly have that, but when it's time for kickoff, when it's time to get your team ready, you have to be the head coach, not the offensive play caller. Kirby Smart, probably the best defensive play caller in the country. He ain't even calling the plays because he knows
you need to have a feel for what's going on in a game and be able to, like, that's when you make your money. I think it's like being able to see, things are starting to spiral. Maybe you got to slow it down instead of like, what is next? Am I going to call a wide delay or am I going to call an inside run? It's like, just like, let someone else do that. Because you're right. He didn't come in as like this offensive whiz kid like he's Lincoln Riley. That's not really how he's made his bones. He made his bones building a culture in a team out of Louisiana in those Raging Cajuns, and that's his MO. It's not calling plays. I don't think like, how can we lose a great mind like Billy Napier calling plays? That's just not. I don't think that's him.
Ain't no one thinking that. And again, it's the Florida Gators. Like, go out and get it dope. Like, get an elite offensive coordinator. Like, you can do that. And I don't know why they're not. And again, get a special teams coordinator as well. There's a reason Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, their offensive coordinators, their assistants, they get poached all the time because they do a great job hiring people around them to help them do this. That's like the key to being a head coach, is surrounding you. You look at why Nick Saban had a down year the last couple of years. I think it's because he missed on his coordinator hires. Like, if you nail your offensive coordinator, like, this is a completely different team, and you're going to have so much talent. DJ Lagway, the numbers he's putting up as a high schooler in Texas, like, this dude's going to be special. Give him a play caller that's going to unleash him. And if you do that, like, I'm really optimistic, because Billy Napier, I think, can be a GM of this team, a head coach that's recruiting, getting it done, establishing the culture. And he's not a play caller. And so I hope he does that. And if he can do that stuff, like, you're really excited about the future of the Florida Gators. If he does not, and we're having this conversation 12 months from now, same thing. I'm not going to be a Billy sunshine pumper anymore. He's got to fix these things.
You got to see development. Like, and again, if they don't like go win the SEC East, it's not like time to panic next year. But if you see the same mistakes and you see them arguably lose 3 games that, well, I think they should have at least been in and probably should have won. Obviously, in the Arkansas case, definitely should have won that. I think you'd argue the Kentucky and Utah too.
100%.
But if you see those same mistakes again, then it gets into like the Mario Cristobal conversation. Like, well, yes, this guy can recruit, but at some point you need to not take a knee or whatever.
Yeah,
like
if you ain't winning football games, it don't matter.
Recruiting doesn't matter. Recruiting helps you win a lot of games, but at the end of the day, the goal is to win.
You get evaluated on your wins and losses. Again, I'm optimistic about Billy Napier. I really do believe in him. I'm excited about the future of this program. We're going to be tracking the transfer portal additions as well. Again, Florida Gator fans, appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Again, would love to hear from you guys in the comment section. We're fans of Florida. We're not diehard fans of Florida. We'd love to hear what you guys have to say as well. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. If you do enjoy the content, again, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.